Hola, hola. My name is Ricardo. I am the host of the Lucha Jovers podcast here in the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. We are a Spanish speaking show dedicated to discussing and analyzing pro wrestling from all across the world. From AW to CMLL, we talk about American wrestling, Japanese wrestling, and of course, Lucha Libre. If something big happened in the pro wrestling world, we will talk about it. So if you know Spanish or have a friend that knows Spanish or want to practice your lucha libre pronunciations, go listen to the Lucha Jovers podcast right here in the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Nos vemos por ahí.
Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling podcast network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling podcasting network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Over the rainbow, gotta let it go. So fast to finger down. Stars tonight together. Here everyone is singing. 你看到我就怕，头皮发麻，我的手。
Welcome back to Open the Voice Gate for August 1st, 2023. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find our show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network feed or our own dedicated podcast feed on all podcast platforms applications. You can follow us on X/Twitter at Open Voice Gate. If you'd like to donate to the show, you click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to our redcircle.com landing site. Just click the red box that says sponsor this podcast, and you can set up a one-time or reoccurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Mike Spears, alongside your other co-host, Case Low. And Case, I actually spent all day thinking about, I don't have a written intro, but I basically do the same thing every week. And during watching Dynamite this last week, I realized I have to, call this thing X instead of Twitter now, because they had the X logo whenever they're doing their screen bugs. I don't like this.
No, I mean, I live in Chicago where nothing, we don't call things by the new name. It's still Sears Tower, even though it's the Willis Tower. And, I know people that still call it Comiskey instead of Guaranteed Rate Field where the White Sox play, or even people that still call it the Cell instead of Guaranteed Rate Field when it was U.S. Cellular Field. I'll never be in a position where I call it X. That's not happening. Everybody knows it's Twitter. It's still Twitter to me, damn it. I'm also not into all of the Twitter offshoots. I don't even have a Threads for professional reasons, and no kidding, that flopped. I mean, it's just the layout of it was all awful. I just want Twitter to just work, and I'm cool with that. And I'm going to call it Twitter. I'm not going to adopt this X nonsense. As long as I can send people DMs on Twitter, which is up in the air at the moment, but as long as I can send people DMs on Twitter, I'm good. That's all I need from a social media platform.
Yeah, I've had a Blue Sky account for several months, and it's something that's just incomplete. So there's no reason really to devote even promoting things on there. It's in beta. It's a closed garden. There's no reason for that. I just My one concern is DMs, actually. Because I feel like text-based things, I was around at the peak of message boards. Discord does not, really, phase me in that regard. But I think that, at least for, my reporting and just a lot of reporting and stuff happens through Twitter DMs. I'm like, what's going to
Yeah.
replace that?
Well, that's what I was talking to my girlfriend about that last night, because she deleted her Twitter app because she was just like, yeah, it's just all negative, and I don't like Elon Musk at all. And I was like, yeah, I'd like, good, don't get on there. I have, like my Shoot Life Twitter that she follows, and then I obviously have the wrestling account that everybody here follows, and I spend 98% of the time I'm logged in on the wrestling account because the Voices of Wrestling Discord is great, and the other Discords I'm in are great, and I get news that way, but I have yet to find an alternative that is better than my Twitter feed with Cubs and Chris Zellner and Gagney and people that are smart and that have good takes and have good insight, and then I just have everybody that I don't like muted. I've yet to find a better alternative than that.
Yeah, and it's something that for me, I guess, like, I look at Twitter very much as like, okay, news and then communications, because I've seen enough numbers long enough to realize that Twitter as like traffic navigation or as a funnel is not worth it. But like, I don't know. I go through phases about every 3 months where I go through and I was like, okay, just wrestling now. And then I have to go back and like delete all the like Miami football or Texas Rangers accounts I follow on the account just to streamline it. And it's the busy time in my sports life right now. So,
I'm watching the Rangers as we speak. It's a White Sox Rangers series kicking off tonight.
Man, I hate being in a Bally's sports or Bally's sports market, man. I really do.
I don't love the Rangers hard cam. It's very high up in center field.
Yeah, it's something that with the ballpark, I haven't been there now and like watched enough games on TV. It's just a very awkward stadium that just it's not like one where I feel like it's dripping with excess where like a lot of like other stadiums do. It just feels very vast and awkward.
Yeah, I would like to go because I'm kind of on a kick of wanting to see new stadiums. Now, I'm always a big defender of where the White Sox play. Obviously, you come to Chicago, everybody wants to see Wrigley. I get it. Wrigley's fine. It's not bad by any means, but it is very expensive. Where the White Sox play, I never understand the bad reputation that it has. It has a million different options for food. You can get in the park for cheap, which people like to make fun of, but it benefits them, so I'm not going to make fun of them for it. I have great sight lines if I'm down the left field line, if I'm down the right field line, if I'm up top. Outfield seats are not my thing, but those look like they're great. But I'm into seeing as many new stadiums as I can because I went to a Bucks playoff game last year, and seeing a modern arena, one built in the 2020s or 2019, oh my God. Stadium technology is ridiculous now.
And it's something that's not even like the big, like new NBA, like you went to the Bucks, like you'd expect it to be like top of the line. Like Fort Worth put in, like, let me see where this arena was built. Like, but they used to have an old convention center that, I mean, that's part of the time where World Class would run bigger shows, but they had this new arena that's not that big. It's like 9,000 seating. It's technically 14,000. It was built in 2019, and I went to the rodeo there. And the thing about it is it was so nice, but it also was very much a scaled down copycat of the AAC. And that's the thing I wonder about with like going to all the new arenas. It's like, at least like when you have like something like Barclays where it's like, oh, there's a lot of like inspiration working on here, or you get something like Dickies Arena where the outside looks like a lot of the old like rodeo fairgrounds and convention center, but it's also very much you step inside, and the only difference between it and the American Airlines Center in Dallas is that the American Airlines Center in Dallas, it has like these arch, like engraved walkways, like chiseled out, where it's just like Texas things. This one has a whole bunch of Fort Worth things, so it has like a giant TCU logo. TCU, to my knowledge, does not play at Dickies Arena.
I do love the Horned Frogs, though.
I mean, you get kind of tired of the Hypnotoad thing. Very quickly, very quickly.
I obviously, I'm a Rams fan, so I want to go there anyways. But SoFi is the one where it's like I keep on looking for an excuse to go out there for a weekend and catch a game, because everybody that I've talked to that's been there is like, it's actually cooler than you think it's going to be, and you go in with high expectations anyways.
The one that I really wanted to see was Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta with the crazy roof. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm. That's we're gonna cash out with our new sponsorship money. I know I'm awaiting payment from our fine folks at BetStamp, a very upstanding organization, and from that, you and I will probably be able to cash out, run our money mark sort of Dragon Door 2.0 fed, and we'll be booking the biggest arenas in the country.
Yep, we're booking the Globe in Vegas for our launch, right?
Yeah, of course. It's
I
us and then you two.
yeah. I mean, we'll make sure that Bono gets his date, but
God, what
we
a
are.
blowhard. You two. God, they fucking suck. Even like I don't even like the pre Joshua Tree records. And a few years ago, I was like, I'm gonna sit down and listen to those. And so I bet that's my thing. I bet I like early U2, and even that is just it's so bad.
I think that they are the band, the Gen X band that just falls flat to new listeners. I really do, because like they're supposed to be doing like Zoo TV, whatever, at the crazy Vegas arena that has over 1 billion LED screen bulbs on the outside and doing like Octung Baby. And it's like, yeah, no, you're just going to retrot that because that's what your audience wants. Because
Yeah.
Case, I'm 30. I'm 37. I don't know anyone my age who says, you know what's a real kick-ass band? U2. And I'm willing to bet there's even less as younger as we get to people around your age as well. Like, I just think it falls flat after if you're born after 77.
I mean, Mysterious Ways is a song. Like, I can't listen to that. That song's terrible. But even, I mean, like people my age, because I'm going through this with my girlfriend right now, where I'm trying to get her into REM, as all 24-year-olds do, because I don't know, REM's just one of the best bands of all time, and I think she has very good music taste. I'm trying to get her into it, and she's like, I don't know, they just sound so old, and I disagree, but U2 is one where there's a complete wall up there. I mean, even if I liked their music, the roadblock of getting by Bono was just not worth it.
Yeah, and it's something that I think also like the way that they've, I mean, for good or bad, forced their way into like the cultural consciousness much longer than like I couldn't tell you the last U2 single that I heard. In case you work you work in the radio industry, when's the last time that something new from U2 has hit like the computer server?
Oh my God! I mean, look, in alt radio, no one's clamoring for a new U2 single, which is crazy because, and I'll get real inside baseball here for a second, but what people want right now, the FM radio listening audience, some people want new bands, but not really. What they want is new songs from bands they know. So like Mike, like you probably haven't heard a new Foo Fighters song in a decade, right?
No, but I know that they constantly put out new albums and are constantly touring, and they're usually at the top of the alternative charts each time.
Yeah, okay, so like they put out a record this year that's actually great. I recommend everybody go listen to the new Foo Fighters record, but the one they put out 2 years ago, by streaming numbers and by, cultural consciousness, wasn't a hit by any means. It just came and went, and for most people that was it. In the world of radio, there were like 3 smash singles on that album. It's the same thing. The biggest songs in alt this year are the new Foo Fighters song, the new Blink-182 song, which technically is air quotes the biggest Blink-182 song ever, just because of how long it was number 1 on the alt charts, and then the Linkin Park song from the Lost Meteora sessions, that song Lost that they put out. They put out a bunch of unreleased music this year, but that's the biggest thing there is the new old Linkin Park song that sat on the shelf for 20 years and then was released this year for the anniversary of Meteora. That's the biggest stuff there is. People don't want new bands. They want to hear something vaguely familiar, and a new song from a band from 20 years ago will fill that void.
Yeah, and I think Dave Grohl is incredibly talented, but like say
he's
what
the man.
will
I'm seeing Foo Fighters in September. I'm really excited about it.
Nice. But like the one thing is that he's the person that I've always felt like got at least what modern rock and what like the modern rock music industry is more so than anyone else.
He gets it.
Like.
He gets it. I always give credit to Fall Out Boy. Fall Out Boy gets it. They play the game. They know what they're doing. Billy Corgan, he goes through eras. Like right now, Billy Corgan's in a very giving mood. there are some songs on the new Pumpkins record. There's a lot of bad songs on there, but there's a few that are pretty good. And I think Billy knows that, and he's played the game more so this year than in recent years. But it's all, I mean, again, we're talking about bands that peaked 25, years ago, to be generous. Siamese Dream came out 30 years ago last week. So it's just, we're in this weird wormhole. But to answer your question in a very long-winded way, U2 is not on that list. No one is excited for. I mean, the U2 put out a record this year. Nobody cared except for maybe your most like tried and true where music lovers live sort of station. But even then, I don't think they had any great success with it.
Yeah, to imagine that they, after Obligations, that was not re-entering the rotation.
Exactly, because Bono did like a theater tour this year. I think it was like part spoken word, and maybe he did some acoustic stuff. He might have just done spoken word. I don't know, but he did that, and so you're gonna get a certain level of stations that will play ball with that just to have access there. But once he leaves your town, you can start to kind of wipe your hands of that.
Yeah, I remember U2, like the last time that U2 did anything that was anyway relevant, at least to me personally, was, gosh, this would have been like a decade ago at talking about stadiums and places we don't change the name. Joe Robbie, they had like one of their big tours had like claw arms that destroyed the field. And that was during the time that the Marlins, the Dolphins, and the Miami Hurricanes all played there, and it completely like screwed up scheduling for like 3 weeks. Completely ruined the field. That's the last time U2 has meant anything to me.
Probably contributed to a Hanley Ramirez injury and the downfall of Chris Coughlin.
Hey, Hanley Ramirez, that's a name that I've not heard in a long time.
I think so. Are you doing these immaculate grids every day? We'll talk about Dragongate in just a second. I haven't talked to Mike all week. Are you doing these immaculate grids?
I tried once, and then I realized very quickly that like my peak baseball phase is over, and I'm like, I'm not going to rack my brain to think of Bobby Witt.
Okay, so I'm going through a similar thing. I do the baseball one and the basketball one every day. I've yet to solve all 9 squares, and I've been doing it for about a week now. But it's really fun going into the recesses of your brain and trying to remember a Hanley Ramirez. The one I got today was Shone Figgins on the Angels.
Okay.
I pulled him out and got a correct answer there, and that made me feel really good.
All right. I guess AL West. That's why, like, whenever I hear Shone Figgins, I'm like, all right, yeah, no,
like my sweet spot's like 2008 to 2012 AL Central guys. So if there's Twins, if there's Royals, obviously if there's Tigers or White Sox, I'm kind of locked in there. Anything else, and it is a struggle, and I can't do the football one. I don't know enough.
Yeah, like that's the thing about me with the baseball one is if you give me NL, I never bother with NL. Like my entire life. I mean, I grew up in Dallas Fort Worth. That's an AL team. Like when I was a kid, interleague still was not a thing. Like interleague started happening when I was 11. So I just never like, and even like my family from the Midwest were nominally Cincinnati Reds fans. It was not like that they were like that diehard to constantly like try to get Reds games in the house in the early 90s. So Immaculate Grid just doesn't work for me because they're going to like have something about like, I don't know, the Colorado Rockies. And if it's not Todd Helton, then I'm SOL.
Yes, this is the thing I went through was a day or two ago. The Rockies were there. And I started thinking, I go, God, my poll there was Ubaldo Jimenez because I think they were looking for a pitcher with 200 strikeouts in a season. And I nailed Jimenez. And I was like, God, if it wasn't him, I can't think of another Rockies pitcher.
Yeah, Ubaldo's the only one I can remember of right now, top of my head. Jeez.
Well, Mike, we're here to talk about Dragongate, so let's preview the GLEAT show coming up in a few days, all right?
All right. Yeah, we will get to King of Gate Final 4 and this Thursday's Korakuen King of Gate Finals in a moment, but we have to look on the other side of the Dragon system here. GLEAT version Mega coming this Friday, Sumo Hall. Biggest show of this splinter of the Dragon system's existence, and honestly, if we really want to look at it, probably the biggest splinter show, I would say, since the launch of Dragon Door.
Yeah. Post Torimon split. I mean, this is, I think, technically bigger than the Dragon Door show, but the Dragon Door show arguably had more cultural impact. But after that, they didn't do anything bigger. El Dorado never had a show this big. I mean, even like I don't know if Osaka Pro's had some shows that have done massive numbers, but they're more so in public spaces. But this is Sumo Hall. You know, this is a big show.
I would say that this would, at least from like Osaka Pro, is something that I always say, like, I'm going to eventually take the 6 months and once a week watch through to like set an afternoon in the weekend and make it my Osaka Pro time. I believe like the Hurricane shows that they would, because they used to run Bodymaker for Hurricane, like their biggest shows of the year, but it was something that, you know, I mean, the stakes for Osaka running Hurricane were a lot more different than I would say than GLEAT's Sumo Hall debut. Just like looking overall at the card, I know the hot topic is going to be attendance, so let's just do that. I saw in the GLEAT channel in the Discord a number thrown around for over-under case, and just want to use this as a little bit of a launching point here. Over-under was listed at 34.65.
34.65. I mean, God, that sounds low just off the jump. That's okay. So that's what DDT Peter Pan did, was 34.65 on the dot. Noah's show in May, that was Jake Lee and Marufuji. That did 27.21. The Altogether show did 6,500, and Sakura Genesis did 6,500. So maybe they're capping it at 6,500 right now. And the over under there was 34.65. You said
correct.
I'm taking the under. I mean, Noah's doing 2,000 there, 2,500 if you're generous. That feels way more in line with what I think they can do than 3,500.
Yeah, 2,500 was the number that I kind of came to when I saw that, as that, just because they're main eventing with Ibushi. It's his first match in Japan in 2 years, 5-on-5 elimination match. The GLEAT side, basically the Young Stars, Takanori Ito, Soma Watanabe, El Lindaman, Check Shimatani, and Kaito Ishida versus Kota Ibushi, Shuji Shikawa, Daisuke Sekimono, Hagane Shino, and Yumihito and Minari.
What is that match? What's to gain there other than 400 tickets sold? I mean, maybe I'm underestimating the star power of Ibushi to some degree, but this, even though we live where we do, i.e. on the other side of the world, you and I can feel when there's a hot match, and unless I'm just totally disconnected, it's not like this is something that people are clamoring for. It's a spectacle, but it's not Ibushi versus Lindemann or Ibushi versus T-Hawk, and right. The problem is that GLEAT doesn't have anybody else that's on Ibushi's level, so you end up in this 10-man, and I don't, maybe I'm too hard on it. Look, we weren't planning on talking about GLEAT, and then I saw a video of Takahiro Yamamura training right before we started recording, and I got annoyed, so I said, let's do this. What's the point of all this?
I having Ibushi on your show, like, that's at the end of the day, I'm looking at this and the way it's constructed, like, it's not like any of the GLEAT guys can do anything that's going to, like, none of those five are going to get a fall in Ibushi and eliminating them in this match. Like, it just does not seem like that. What do you do if you're presented with the opportunity that, hey, Soma Watanabe, Ibushi wants you to, he wants him to go over him? Like, I don't know how this
even Ishida. I mean, think about Ishida here. Like, I don't know. I'm completely of the mindset that this is a downgrade from whatever Ishida could have possibly done in Dragongate at this point in his career. Because, if he stays, right, he's probably in the Shimizu position, quite honestly, because he's not a Reiwa 6 guy. He's probably just doing the angle that Shimizu's doing in King of Gate right now. In a Dreamgate match at Oda City is just objectively bigger than a hodgepodge 10-man where you might never see Ibushi in this promotion again.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, what does Ishida get out of eliminating Hagane Shino? Absolutely nothing. It does not. It's a name that, like, that all the other names are like, yeah, Shuji Shikawa and Daisuke Sekimoto carry a level of cachet here, but it's not like people are able to really gain anything out of it. So then you take the step back, you look at the remainder of the card, and then you see Ibushi, then you see like Minoru Suzuki, you see Hiromu Takahashi, you see
Shima's return match,
you see Junior Fujita in this show, and you keep on going up and down the card, and at a certain point, there's only one natural conclusion I think you could take away from this is they want to have a somewhat respectable Sumo Hall number, if that's 3465 as a turning point, or if that's a 2500, what have you, and they don't have the confidence that their home roster is going to deliver that.
The home roster can't put 1,000 in Korakuen.
So what does this accomplish? You're in the big building. You hope that bringing in the biggest stars and at least 2 other promotions in here to bolster your numbers, so you're not embarrassed, so the photographs look good.
Okay, we'll expedite this preview real quick because there's one other GLEAT thing I want to talk about. But let me pinpoint the Dragon System guys on the roster and some of the GLEAT homegrown guys, and look at the position they're in, and I'll tell you whether or not they'll be in a better position leaving this show. And I think you can lump in Ito, Watanabe, Lindemann, Shek Shimatani, who's our guy, and Ishida. They're the 5 guys in the 10-man that are representing GLEAT. None of those guys are going to gain anything from that match. You've got T-Hawk versus Tamura. That's the G-Rex title match. I don't know. I wish they saw in Shek Shimatani what they see in Tamura. You know, either T-Hawk wins and the world keeps spinning, or Hayato Tamura wins and who cares? You know, we can pretend that they made a guy for a day and then they'll do 700 in Korakuen and we'll all move on with our lives. The big thing here is the tag title match with the Saito brothers against Kawakami and Galeno Del Mal. You have to belt up Galeno Del Mal. That's the guy. I mean, I would have put him against T-Hawk on this show.
Yeah, I think that this is... I don't know, like, with how people are in that office and in that room, but I am stunned with someone who has the reputation for or having his fingers on the pulse as much as Shima does, that he has not seen the reaction whenever Galeno Del Mal shows up, you know, or like looks and sees like, oh, get a whole lot of bulk orchestra gifts out there when it's Galeno in there versus if it's just Kazuma and Quiet Storm. Like it's something that makes me... There's a lot of reasons why I think Shima might have lost his fastball, but not taking advantage of Galeno Del Mal is definitely one of the bigger ones.
Well, it'll be interesting to see between him and Yutani, who's in this, well, that turned into an 8-man. That's Kento, Shigehiro Irie, Junji, and Jack Cartwheel versus Kotaro Suzuki, Hartley Jackson, Kichi Sato, and Yutani. It'll be interesting to see if Yutani takes the fall and if Galeno Del Mal takes the fall, given the shakeup in Big Lucha. Bandito's out there. Bandito is obviously the plug between GLEAT and Big Lucha. There's a chance that they could just end up losing Galeno Del Mal. And I don't know anything. I'm not reporting that. But there's a power structure shakeup in Mexico that could very easily and very quickly have ramifications on what they're doing in Japan.
Yeah, I wonder, though, if with that overall Golden Guns, Big Lucha shakeup, when it comes down to it, like if this was like the first month of that relationship, if that was very much so what you're saying, but over the passage of time, if individual relationships kind of evolve so they don't have to deal with the office, or if Bandito doesn't have power or does not have say anymore, you're still able to get your guys over.
Yeah, they're obviously, they're losing Golden Guns. They're not losing Black Generation, although I would cackle uproariously if for some reason they stop being able to book Black Generation and Ishida just has to go and do something else. I just think that would be very funny. But it's something to keep an eye on, because, the new people in charge, who the people who won that power struggle, maybe they're not into this because they lose some of their main guys for weeks at a time. And, Big Lucha has really stopped running as frequently as they were in prior years. I don't think it's because of the GLEAT relationship, but it certainly can't help if, you have Galeno Del Mal and a staple on your shows like Yutani elsewhere. It's, it's not good. It's not good for the promotion at home. So we'll have to keep an eye there. The other thing I wanted to mention, second match on the show, Tetsuya Izuchi who I'm a huge fan of. I think the guy's great. I think he has natural babyface charisma. In an ideal world, he would be somebody that this promotion would build around, and ideally they would be able to again draw 1,000 fans in Tokyo. He's in a fucking MMA match. What are we doing here?
I mean, maybe they realize that he is just an absolute geek, and you might as well just feed him to the slaughter and hope that it engenders some sort of support.
This feels like the type of show that you need to watch on VHS tape. You know what I mean? Like this will be like a 6-hour show, and there will be matches that will be really good. There will be some stuff that sucks, but I think to fully embrace what this show is, I need to make my first IVP video order in like 7 years, and preferably on tape and not even DVD.
Yeah, and you couldn't put the tape into your VHS deck until 10:30 that night.
Yeah.
This is not a show that you take all day and watch. This is a show, like, I know, Case, you don't drink, so it's not the case. This is a show that, if things are looking a little bleak or you're a little bit, contemplative after a night out, you go home and you put on GLEAT version
It's
Mega.
very funny you say that, because when you started, I was like, yeah, I guess I could get, like, I've never gotten high in my life, but if I was going to, it might be GLEAT version Mega from fucking Sumo Hall. It's like, no better way to consume it. Like, this show should not be HD on YouTube, or they might even have 4K cameras. Those shows look so
might.
good. No, this should be a grainy 3rd gen VHS tape, and I should have to wait 3 weeks to watch it, and then it doesn't live up to my expectations.
Yeah, and you have to negotiate with someone saying, hey, I don't really want to pick it up from you at the show. I'm paying postage.
I've got a Chris Hero t-shirt. Do you want to trade? I'll trade you the shirt for the tape. Something like that. Real quick, did you see what their schedule is so weird. We talked about how Noah doesn't run shows ever last week. I'm looking at the GLEAT schedule here. They ran July 1st, Tokyo Dome City Hall anniversary show. They ran in the Umeda Sky Building, which is one of their mainstays, on July 16th. And that was their last show before this. Did you see the main event of that show?
Yeah, that was... I like the when they shake it up to the extent that you make Azuchi team with Galeno.
Yeah, no, the match on paper is fine. I haven't seen the match yet. I'm sure it's good. It's billed as a Generation Z premium match. Look, I know Dragongate did an event pushing young guys or doing generational warfare, but good lord, they do this big promo, giant angle, makes headlines in Japan at Dead or Alive. This is the Reiwa 6. And then New Japan comes along and they go, we have our Reiwa Musketeers. And now GLEAT's here tagging along going, we have Generation Z. And it's just like, what is this? Why are there 3 promotions doing the same angle right now?
4.
Oh, is Stardom pushing like 16-year-olds? Is that their gimmick?
No, but they do call their younger, like, motivating stars the Golden Generation.
Okay. Who's the 4th?
Oh, that was the 4th promotion.
Oh, it was Stardom. Okay, all right. I was hoping you were going to say like Big Japan or something. Big Japan's got some 21-year-olds they want to push.
To AEW, they found the new pillars right now.
Hey, man, if I could break Ayato Yoshida out of there, I would. That was, boy, did he get screwed on that.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to make Ayato Yoshida and Taka Michinoku into a transition to Final Gate talk, but should we get into
Ayato Yoshida and Taka Michinoku had a lot of controversy, but you know what's not controversial? The way Dragongate has booked King of Gate 2023, because I am satisfied.
There we go. King of Gate 2023. We now have a Final Four. We look ahead to Thursday at Korakuen Hall for the semifinals and the finals of the 2023 King of Gate. However, we did have one last match before we got to Tokyo this weekend. It was in Tsushima on the 29th. Hyo versus Dragon Dia. Hyo won with a Neko Tamashi in 17 minutes to become the 4th and final semifinalist and cementing his, I don't know that this is not a Genki Horiguchi level Cinderella run, but he is the Cinderella of 2023, the Black Panther Hyo.
I thought this was terrific, and I came on here last week. I talked about how I thought it would make a lot of sense for Dragon Dia to be the one to move on. I thought, hey, I think the Hyo thing is a little bit played out. I'm not sure I want to see him in this big of a spot against Coach Minoura, but Hyo shut me up here. This was his best performance in a very, very long time. This was the Hyo character, the big brain, the guy who's not bigger than you, faster than you, but is smarter than you, really coming into play. And I thought they stuck the landing for what this match was.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the way that they kind of worked the Hyo's shenanigans in it, for the lack of better words, in comparison to how during the Bravegate run last year and 2022's King of Gate, where the big brain stuff, like, you knew it was happening and you saw it, but you're like, okay, we got that over with. Is this going to be the finish, or are we getting something clean out of this? Instead, it was woven into the story in a really fascinating way. With one of the things about King of Gate is usually first round matches, you don't have any seconds, because if you're in the tournament, you usually don't come and stand and second someone who's in it. So you only really get to see people seconding their unit mates partway through the tournament. So you had Yuki Yoshioka out there for Dragon Dia, but because of the shenanigans that were afoot, all the heel run-ins from Z-Brats, and Madoka Kakuta gets out there, and then they finally just lay out Z-Brats and completely take that out to have the clean, or the somewhat clean finish for Hyo there. And I thought that was a real brilliant and one of the smartest booked Z-Brats interference spots in a tournament in years.
Yeah, Hyo did nothing new here. It's nothing that we haven't seen before, but it all felt fresher than it normally does. And normally I would point to, okay, well, who was he in the ring with? Is there something that Dia brought to the table that made this pop a little bit more than it normally does? But, let's be honest, we've seen a lot of Hyo and Dragon Dia. This isn't even a new combination, but this was just one of those nights where these guys were on, the crowd was invested, and things just worked to a degree that was very pleasing.
Yeah, and it was even something where you had little things that don't always connect when these guys face off. Like, so Hyo does his second rope back senton, and that's not necessarily been the move that's been getting him wins in the tournament, but that has been one of the trademark moves he's had. After he lands it, you have probably the biggest near fall of the match, because Dia hooks the arm and goes for a crucifix there. These aren't things that we would see in some of the previous encounters or matchups with these two guys.
Yeah, no, this was worked like a big time match. I mean, quite frankly, I wish Hyo's Bravegate run had been worked with this level of intensity. It really, I thought it sort of lacked this. I knew he had this in him. It's why I was such a vocal supporter of him, and why we've always loved him on this podcast, because he's not a great wrestler, but he does have the ability to craft great matches. And when his character is on, when he's feeling himself, he sort of lulls you into greatness, where, you have, a Kakuta or a Skywalker or Yoshioka, and you watch them and it's very cut and dry. That's a great match. I know it in the moment. I know what I'm watching. And Hyo's one of those guys where you get kind of suckered in, and with all the bells and whistles and the chair spots, the interference, and by the end of it, when you have a satisfying conclusion like this, when the match really pays off to a degree that you want it to, you have to sit back and go, wait a minute, that was really good. All right, I'm on board here, and that's exactly what happened. I would put this, certainly not in the upper tier of tournament matches. Not a Shimizu Skywalker, a Kakuta Mochizuki, a Shimizu Susumu even. But this is in that second tier, kind of next to Yoshioka versus Kamei, where I didn't quite go spreadsheet on it, but I really thought they did a good job here.
Yeah, this was a healthy 3 3/4 for me as well.
Yes, very much so.
And it was something where, as you look at stories coming out of King of Gate, it really, you look at Hyo, and he has been someone that, if you take King of Gate since returning to live crowds in 2021, maybe not last year, but there's been no one over the last 3 years of Dragongate who has been able to take this format, take these kind of matches, take King of Gate, and make it a place for a springboard for them. Because as we saw Hyo make that big step in 2021 with the great brain gimmick, we now see a fully conceptualized wrestler. We see someone here that I think that we've talked about this as the tournament's gone along. He's got to be like, as soon as Diamante comes back, and we can get into thinking he's maybe returning on Thursday, you're going to want to have someone with him and someone ready for a face turn. And I think like you drop some of the Zebrats cheating and you have something there with Hyo, where I could very easily see a Hyo Diamante entrance into Gold Class and then having Hyo and Diamante as a Twin Gate team by this time next year. Like, we'll have already won the Twin Gate there. Like, it feels like that coming out of this tournament, he's been the person. Like, the story's been about Shimizu, but Hyo's made it clear not to forget about him during King of Gate 2023.
Yeah, and I'm even leaning more in the direction of I don't think they'll be joining Gold Class. I think they're going to do their own thing. But you kind of led me to what I was going to talk about, which was Hyo was so good in this match, it made me want to see him turn immediately. I think if you get out here, if you get out at this moment, historically will all be not that we were going to slam it or give it heavenly praise in either direction, but I think history will be much kinder on the Hyo heel run, which has lasted for 4 years. I mean, he won the Battle Royal to turn heel, and Mike, that was 2019, right?
Yeah, because as when we get onto our other topic for tonight, he was in Mochizuki Dojo for a long time.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was 2019, like that feels like a lifetime ago, but it's something where like this was his second step, was this heel turn, and it's ready for him because he was really kind of slotted in as the bottom guy in Mochizuki Dojo, and without this heel turn, he wouldn't have had the Triangle Gate, Twin Gate, Brave Gate runs that he ended up having. And I think now you look at this, and whenever Diamante is stepping back through the curtain, there's one guy that needs to be tied to the hip with him, and it's got to be Hyo.
I'm in complete agreement. I hope they rip the Band-Aid off at Korakuen in August. Part of our coverage post Kobe World, because I asked people that live in Japan that understand the culture just a little bit better, because I wanted a good read on it, was, Diamante coming back and immediately stepping away. I don't think that sort of thing would get play in America. I don't think people would get it, but they leaned really heavily into the fact that he's going to go spend time with his family. And maybe it's, for lack of a better term, a mask to cover up an injury that he suffered, but they really leaned hard on him going to spend time with his family. And everybody that I talked to there goes, no, he's okay. When he comes back, he's going to be a star. People are going to shriek, as they did for the July Korakuen show when he came through the curtain. But selfishly, I want him back. I want to see the movement here. I want to turn Hyo face, and as I've always said, and I'll say it again, Hyo needs to turn face just so he can turn heel again. He has found his calling as an undersized heel. It's a valuable role to have. It's a special place to be on the roster. He's found his spot there, but he needs to freshen up. He needs to be a baby face for 15, 18 months, and then that heel turn, when it comes again, it's going to hit in all of the right ways.
And with Hyo's win, we have our final four of King of Gate 2023 after the quarterfinal in Tsushima. All four of the guys got out there. Madoka Kakuta, the Open Dream Gate champion, Big Boss Shimizu, and Kota Minoura. Basically cutting a promo previewing the upcoming action, and that led to a Final Four tag match in Yamaguchi the next day. It was Shimizu with Hyo versus Kakuta and Minoura. Case, did you get a chance to catch this YouTube upload?
I did. I thought it was fine. That's my review of it. Sometimes the road to tag matches just don't work for me, and this was one. I'm gonna be really excited come Korakuen. This did not necessarily build to my excitement, though.
Yeah, like the only big thing that I came out of this match was it was nice seeing like Shimizu was serious but not dripping back into heel shtick a little bit with Hyo. Like that's something that could happen with it, but it was, I would say, not rote, but it was what you expect. You got to see the face-offs there. It's clear that Shimizu and Kakuta will be carrying the load in the semifinals is pretty much like the big takeaway.
Yeah, I wonder what the better match is going to be, a Shimizu and Kakuta, or Hyo and Minoura. I think we know the answer to that.
Hey, I mean, who's to say that we don't somehow get this masterpiece? I'm saying we're not. We're not getting a masterpiece out of this, but we'll see how Minoura versus Hyo is on Thursday. I wanted to take a second case before we start previewing these quarterfinal matchups, and so we have our final four here. I just wanted to take a moment, like in this kind of week where it's King of Gate, we have the final on Thursday, and let's talk about the paths each of the semifinalists had making it to the final four in Korakuen Hall on Thursday. First of Hyo, he defeated UT and KZ before getting the win over Dragon Dia in the last quarterfinal. I think I had to come away like we've spent like the last 10 minutes on him, but he's probably, other than Shimizu telling his story, the person I would say has the biggest stock up coming out of King of Gate so far. Where are you? Where's your vibe at with Hyo going into the final day of King of Gate?
He's been great. The KZ match was outstanding. I mean, that's one of those where I kind of, a week removed from it, I think, God, that match really stuck with me. That was really something. And we just got done raving about this Dragon Dia match. I think if you would have pitched this final four to me at the start of the tournament, I would have been a little bit disappointed because, like I said at the start of the pod, it felt like we had seen everything that Hyo was capable of in this role. And it was an undeniable success because for the longest time, he was just a guy in leopard print shorts going nowhere. We were, I think, the only two people in the world, America, Japan, Europe, that were active fans of Hyo Watanabe. And this heel run has turned him into a guy, a focal point on the roster. But it really had felt like it had been winding down this year. I haven't really been enamored with his work, but he turned things around, and the KZ match was excellent. The Dia match was excellent. The UT match was pretty good. I don't know how you could come away not feeling a little bit better about Hyo and just his place in Dragongate after this.
Yep, that's basically the exact reason why I am massive stock up with him as well. He'll be facing Kota Minoura in the semifinals in Tokyo. Minoura defeated Doi in Osaka to kick off his 2023 King of Gate. Follow that up with defeating the would-be Cinderella story of King of Gate, Punch Tominaga, in short order. And then finally vanquishing probably the biggest demon he had, his first ever direct one-on-one victory over Yuki Yoshioka in the quarterfinals in their hometown of Gifu. I think that this was more of a reset year for Minoura, but I'm coming away with this maybe not as firmly stock up as Hyo or others people that we're about to talk about, but this was the performance that I wanted to see out of him after the last few years.
Yeah, I said this last week, and I'll reiterate it here because I thought Dragongate did a really good job with Dia versus Hyo and reaffirming this point. If you're understanding what this tournament is, which it's not block play, it's not 2016 where you have dozens upon dozens of opportunities for great matches, but rather this single elimination tournament where from the start, I think we had a pretty good idea of Shimizu making his run, and then it was a matter of whether or not they were going to lean hard on Yoshioka or Minoura, and they went with Minoura, but this has been a tournament that has told a lot of stories, and the thing that I always look for in a tournament like this is guys that come out of the tournament in a better position than they came in with. And if you want to talk about rehabilitation and stock up and changing the perception of a guy, Kota Minoura is the answer. He finally got back to a spot where I'm not flinching around him. I don't have those triggers of 2022. I don't have that PTSD. It's all gone. He's been great. I love the Doi match and the Yoshioka match, which I sent to a lot of people. I that is for some people their match of the tournament. It's not for me. I liked a few others just a little bit more, but we're in a position where Minoura is about to make his third King of Gate finals in a row, assuming he takes care of Hyo, which would be shocking if he didn't. And again, much like Hyo, had you pitched that finals to me of Hyo and Minoura in the semifinals and Minoura in the finals, if you would have pitched me that a month ago, I would have gone, oh, God, that's stale. That's boring. But now I'm all about it. I think they've done a really good job with that left side of the bracket this year.
Yeah, and it's something where I think this is the advantage of the knockout style, where you have someone like Minoura, where you're able to kind of tell two different stories with his tournament so far that you're not really able to. You're more restricted into, well, you have your league and then whatever can happen out of that. You're able to kind of set your story more with a knockout, where in the first round, he takes out the guy who spent 6 months headhunting him, building a unit around him, and then walked out. Minoura gets that one, and then he's able to beat the guy that had his number throughout his career in Yoshioka. And I think that is a story you can't tell in a league formatted tournament.
No, and to go on to that point, I'll sort of jump ahead here, but it'll be worth it to do it right now. But the push of Coach Minoura, the real start of his career, it came on July 4th of 2020, the very first show that Dragongate ran with limited capacity fans post-COVID. This was the KBS Hall double shot. They did Champion Gate in Osaka in February and March, did a few empty arena shows, and then the empty arena King of Gate in 2020. And then they came back in Kyoto, and that show, it was booked to be Shimizu versus Yosuke Santa Maria. And Maria pulled out the day before the show. She hurt her shoulder training. And so they put Shimizu against Coach Minoura, and it led to a 15-minute time limit draw. And it was very clear to everyone watching, that was a moment for Minoura. He was elevated there, and then he spent the back half of 2020 and the early parts of 2021 just big win, big moment, featured here, featured there, featured in the main event, pinning guys in the main event. And that's, why he has the career that he has. It'll be really interesting, assuming that Shimizu is the one that moves on. This will be the first time they've wrestled in a singles match since then. So you're not only seeing Minoura with his history with Doi and with his history with Yoshioka, there's a bigger story there with he and Shimizu than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah, and if you really are mining for all the story, Minoura and Hyo, members of Mochizuki Dojo.
That's right.
So
that's right.
You have a lot.
Hyo had been in the company for 2 full years, basically, by the time Minoura came in, and it took 1 month for Minoura to surpass him in the pecking order. I always point to Minoura debuted in July, black tights young boy. By August, he had gear and a loose gimmick and signature moves and was just off to the races. And Hyo for 2 years was nothing. It just a guy getting beat in opening matches.
Yeah, so there's a lot to be said about Minoura's King of Gate 2023. Taking a look at the other half of the bracket, Big Boss Shimizu was fingered to be the major player of King of Gate this year. It still very much seems that way, just not in the way we anticipated when we first saw the 32-man bracket. He defeats Reiwa 6 member Shun Skywalker on opening night, then advances on to take out the breakout star of 2023, Yasushi Kanda, and Kyoto, and follows that up with defeating Yasushi Kanda's tag team partner Susumu Mochizuki in the quarterfinals to set this up. We thought it was Reiwa 6, but instead we are getting kind of a little bit of an N2K run out of Shimizu's 2023.
Yeah, this is great. He's been everything that I wanted him to be, everything that I thought he would be. It was 7 years ago that he went to the finals of King of Gate 2016 against Yamato. He was brilliant there. I thought he was the 10th best wrestler in the world in 2016. And I've said since, as his career, he's shifted further and further down the pecking order and further out of favor with American fans. I've always said, if you're new to Dragongate, you don't understand how good this guy is. He's so talented. It's just a matter of opportunity and him keeping his head on straight. And he's done it here. I think he's going to pin Kakuta in the opener. Just the impact of that, the effect of that, Kakuta falling in the opening match, I think will be a great moment. And I expect he and Minoura to go out there and kill each other. I think that's going to be a really hard-hitting match. I think they're going to do a lot of crazy things to one another. And I'm just really excited to see what they come up with. And I think this is Shimizu's tournament to win. I think he should win. And I think, he and Kakuta going back again, doing it in Ota City, will be a very, very respectable Dangerous Gate main event. I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, it's the story that they wanted to tell, and it's being told excellently. And I do think that Shimizu is someone that there is always going to be the is Shimizu taking it seriously kind of thing, because he had that track record. But I mean, did you notice that Shimizu, he's always been, and I think he always will be, a little bit of a thicker guy. He's tightening it up over the last month too. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Look, he's got the main event push body. I get it. Next year he'll balloon up again. But yeah, this is adult Big Boss Shimizu. He's been at the company 10 years now, celebrated his 10th anniversary in May. This will undoubtedly be the biggest spot of his career, because I'm trying to think now. I know he wrestled Mochizuki for the Dreamgate belt, but that was a Wakayama show. And then he had Kai last year. And this, Osaka's his hometown, but Dangerous Gate is bigger than Champion Gate in Osaka. This is going to be the biggest match of his career. And he's a guy who, I think if you go through his cage match, you'll realize he's been in a lot of big matches on big shows, but nothing quite like this.
And we will talk about one of the lesser known big matches on big shows in a little bit. That brings us to our Open the Dreamgate champion, Madoka Kakuta. He defeated Misaki Mochizuki in the opening round. Then he had a bit of the big boys road, taking out Takashi Yoshida and then Shuji Kondo. Something of note, 15 minutes with Yoshida, 20 minutes with Kondo. The champ's walking into Tokyo with 35 minutes of super heavyweight wrestling in his last 2 tournament matches.
Yeah, it's been a good tournament for him as well. It's more continued good work. I told everybody leaving Kobe World, because the build for Kakuta versus Yoshioka was what it was, a lot of people were very quick to cast stones and write him off, even though he had done 11 months of not only great work, but almost borderline perfect work to get to the position that he was in. There were no missteps along the way. It was, Ryo Saito getting cute with the Dreamgate booking as we got closer to the biggest show of the year, a fatal flaw of him as a booker. And Kakuta's come back in this tournament and been everything that he should be. It's just a lot of people, I think, with their finger off the pulse there, ready to write off Kakuta, and he's shown that they were just entirely incorrect.
And being completely honest, he was not given the tournament to have the matches, I would say, for non-native fans to go off on in the way that we see how international fans usually are towards Dragon Gate. He just he wasn't presented the options to. I mean, Yoshida, that was a very specific kind of match. I think I'm highest on Kakuta's tournament than anyone else covering it. But
yeah, because you liked the Yoshida match, which I didn't. I was, please, I'll take the Mochizuki match, and I'll take the Kondo match, and I had no use for Yoshida, but you love that too because you're a sick little freak.
I sometimes I really want the Showa vibes, and we got Showa vibes with Yoshida and Kakuta just running at each other. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that I'm completely rational in my likes and dislikes, but sometimes you just want to see big guys collide for a little bit.
I saw that with Kakuta and Kondo, and I really enjoyed it. I did not feel like I saw that with Kakuta versus Yoshida.
Hey, it'll be a 4-star match that you'll make fun of me about, and I'll completely forget about in December.
No, it'll be fun when we're doing this in like 2027, and I have you pull up something from your spreadsheet this year, and then we've got to go and backtrack and think, wait, why did you give Kakuta versus Yoshida 4 stars? That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like something you would do.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at my notes for it right now, and all I have for this in 2027 to go with is just hossing off, a very heavyweight feeling, no howling. This is very much champion comes home, discus lariat, great, 4 stars. I'm gonna have no way to discern why I like this match.
No, that's psychotic. Those notes will not make any sense 2 weeks from now.
Buddy, they're not gonna make sense in 40 years when you get all these notebooks either.
I know. I don't want to see you die, but I do look forward to inheriting your life's work.
We've talked about the path that these 4 guys had. Let's take a look at the matches that we have in Korakuen coming up. They're listed as matches 1 and 2 on Thursday's show. Kakuta versus Shimizu leading off, then Minoura versus Hyo. Let's get the easy one out of the way, and I'll try to do this in a fun way. 10 minutes. Over, under. Minoura versus Hyo.
Under. Yeah, I feel pretty. That doesn't need to go that long. you know?
And I think this match at 8 minutes is much better than what this match could be at 12.
I think this match at 4 minutes is better than what it could be at 8. You know, I kind of just want to go out and see Minoura and Hyo basically do like a gimmicky G1 sprint. You know, do their thing the way they do it, but do it as short as they possibly can.
Do we think that Takayuki Yagi can move at 2 times speed for the ref bump, though?
No, have you seen him take a ref bump? He moves at half speed.
He took a pretty good one in that Hyo versus Daya match. They made it work, but you're not going to be able to.
I wonder if the office had to talk to him because Nakagawa's gone now, and he was sort of the king of ref bumps. I mean, he's not only taken the best ref bumps in Dragongate history, he's taken some of the best ref bumps ever. I wonder if they pulled Yagi aside and were like, hey, so yeah, the young guy's gone. You gotta go back to bumping, and you gotta up the ante a little bit. I would like to think that's how that went, because you're right, Yagi did take a good bump in that match.
Yeah, they were like, Nakagawa took that go to hospital number 2. He took that. Just putting it out there. And then the rookie ref is like, just keep this in mind in a couple of years.
Yeah, just remember this is you one day. You're inheriting a drop kick to the face.
You're inheriting a single leg drop kick that you will have to go to the hospital for. But just prepare yourself with that. But I just I had in our show list prospective finals, Hyo versus Shimizu and Hyo versus Kakuta. How does Hyo win this match other than outright fuckery?
I mean, that's the only way that you do it, but I don't know what you gain from that. You know, the advantage of having King of Gate in July post-World instead of in May pre-World is it really opens you up to a lot of different possibilities of who could win the tournament. But we're still going under the assumption that whoever wins this is getting a Dreamgate shot and specifically getting it for Dangerous Gate this year. And there's just no way that Hyo's doing that. You know, if he had been running a gimmick for the entire tournament, similar to when he won the Dragon Quest Battle Royal or whatever it was called, that led to chaos. What did he cash that in on? What was the payoff there? Because you know more than I do.
Oh, he cashed it in on the unit disbands match at Final Gate 2020.
Already in Toryumon generation. That's right. Okay, so if he had been running a gimmick the entire tournament where he's like, I don't want a Dreamgate match, I don't care about that belt, but I want natural vibes to go away if I win. Okay, now we're talking. I could certainly get on board with him at least going to the finals, but there's no reason for it. It's weird because now the alternative is Minoura makes his 3rd finals in a row and will likely lose again. But I think that doesn't hurt him in the long run. Hyo winning and going to the finals would just be bizarre.
Yeah, so we just have to keep an eye on the clock. Maybe this can make the sprint match pantheon here if they make it under 5. The other semifinal, Kakuta versus Shimizu. I bring up the ring time that Kakuta had and the path he had going to this. I feel like this is something where Kakuta just gives out. I mean, he faces the 3 biggest guys on the roster in 3 consecutive tournament matches. Eventually, that 3rd guy is going to have the benefit of the doubt just because of exhaustion reasons.
Yeah. This will be interesting. They're not going to go all out. I certainly expect a Shimizu roll up to close things out here, but I don't have a good idea of what this match is going to look like or what they're going to go for here. I would assume under 10 minutes just with the pattern of the way Dragongate lays out these tournament matches, but it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, and that would give, I think, both of us the anticipated Shimizu versus Minoura finals, Reiwa Big Six versus the one left outside. Interesting path for Minoura here. You brought up that you think no matter what, Minoura this is a finals where he takes the L, and given everything, this doesn't take the bloom off the rose. We don't think they're KZing him here.
No. Minoura is in a better position now than KZ has been for most of his career. Minoura's winning the big one of these days, and it might be next year for the 25th anniversary. I could see them doing a deal where he wins the Dreamgate and then wins King of Gate if they have the same schedule next year. He's not in danger of being KZ just yet.
Yeah, and with his age, I mean, he's still, I don't think he's turned 25 yet. I still think Kota Minoura.
think about it from this perspective. KZ and the lack of KZ time has existed in either Natural Vibes 1.0, Team Dragongate, or primarily in Natural Vibes 2.0 and 3.0. Ultimately,
Right.
there's no change to that KZ. He's been the same guy now for about 6 years, and it's a guy that we love. And, not a complaint by any means, but there's no change in the trajectory of KZ. It's the same guy that's been beaten time and time and time and time and time again. Think about the last 3 years of Coach Minoura's career. Okay, 2021, he's like the underdog upstart in Masquerade. And it's surprising that he gets to the finals. There's a chance that he could beat, oddly enough, KZ. And then it doesn't work out, and we go, all right, he'll be back next year. And then the finals last year, he sneaks his way in, and it's Yoshioka versus Minoura, which was, controversial, as it really put fuel on the fire of the Nozawa storyline, because somebody was like, well, Nozawa wanted Yoshioka versus Minoura in the finals. I was like, well, we all kind of saw that coming. It's, it wasn't, I digress. Anyways, he was gold class in a failed gold class unit, pre-Ben K, Ashita leaving the company 2 weeks after that. It was a low point for him. And then obviously everything came in July. That was just a complete and utter disaster. And now he's in he's still in gold class, but it's a different unit. He's in a different position. He's going to change again and again and again. Minoura's just a guy that's going to be in constant flux in terms of the unit and the presentation and the positioning that he's in. He's, by a result of that, not in a position that KZ is in.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also has with the fact that Minoura, as you brought up earlier, we're talking about July of 2020 as the true start of his career, and only about a year and a half before that. You're talking 9 years for KZ that they were able to take him to a certain point or let him get to a certain point, but unless there is that big change, and it might be too long,
Yeah, I think his story is that it doesn't have a storybook ending. As we continue to move along, that's the way I think it's looking.
Yep, and that is the King of Gate finals. I think we're both still pretty firmly on Camp Shimizu. The one thing I'll say about this tournament is they have not given us any reason to have any doubt in the story or anything tossed in as a spanner in the works. It's something that I can't think the last time that they really went surprising on a King of Gate result, at least when you got down to final day.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm actually kind of curious now. Let me look at the winners here just to see the last one that really shocked us, because Yoshioka made sense, KZ made sense, Eita made sense, Ben, that was obviously his year. Yoshino was 2018. I mean, T-Hawk was a surprise in 2017, but not in the way that you mean, I don't think. Yamato 2016, that was obvious. Yoshino 2015, that's pretty straightforward. Well, okay, it was 2014, because the finals
Hulk didn't win.
Hulk didn't win. In the finals was Susumu versus T-Hawk, and everybody thought that T-Hawk was going to win that, and it ended up being Susumu. And then they did Yamato versus Susumu in a match that only aired on the intermission of World 14. I still haven't seen that match, but they did a Dreamgate match post King of Gate there. Non-televised Dreamgate match. Who would have thought?
Yeah, God, I can't even imagine that world nowadays.
Do you know how upset I would be if we didn't see a Dreamgate match now?
I would wonder how much that whatever person who paid for that show paid for that match.
Yeah. Man, next year. So, King of Gate 2014 was when I really decided to go all in on Dragongate, because the Korakuen show, it was headlined by T-Hawk versus Tozawa. And it's such a good match. And it really just made me go, okay, this is something different. I'm really into this. I want to get more into this. I go through this tournament, which almost none of it aired on TV. It was that Korakuen and then the finals in Sambo Hall. But God, what a fun tournament this was. I really wish we had the fan cams of this show, because some of the matches we didn't get, and this is 2014, Yoshino versus Eita, Genki versus Yamato, Shingo versus Ryotsu Shimizu, Mochi versus Kagetora, and then like the second round matches, it's T-Hawk versus Yoshino, Hulk versus Genki, Shingo versus Naoki Tanizaki, and Susumu versus Masaki Mochizuki. That's crazy. None of those aired. We didn't see any of those. The semifinals were T-Hawk and Hulk and Susumu and Shingo. We saw none of those.
Yeah, and when you think about like how that was with distribution wise. So during that time, that was still kind of Ustream into Nico, but it was
that's still Ustream, because Ustream went away shortly after World that year. It went away kind of the early fall of 2014, because there's that weird, this is completely off the rails, but there was that weird period of New Japan. I think it must have went away in September, because October was King of Pro Wrestling, and they did Tanahashi versus Styles in the main event. And that match was on Nico in Power Struggle, which had a 5-star Ishii versus Goto match. That was on Nico. And then Wrestle Kingdom that year was the first World show. So we lost Ustream like September 2014, I guess.
Yeah, that seems about right, because then it was like Nico. I still have Nico points, by the way.
I know,
Who is on Nico? How sleazy do I have to get? I know 666 now did live streaming with English commentary, so I feel like
they did English commentary.
Chris Brooks was there doing commentary.
I saw that. Okay, that's less weird. That's okay. If it's Chris Brooks, I'm gonna allow it. If it was like, I was thinking like Arda Ocal did it or something. It's like, what are we doing here?
What like Kevin Gill doing the Chinese Fed?
Yeah, it's like they got Lenny Leonard out of retirement to do 666. Just like, good. It's like, what are we doing here? But it's Chris Brooks. That makes more sense.
Lenny might do that. Lenny,
hey, you cut Lenny the right check. Lenny will do a lot.
Yeah. Come on, Brooks. You have that KOD money now. You got to pay for Lenny to do it.
You got to pull him away from the shoot job. He's a very successful man. But anyways, I think the last like real surprising King of Gate winner would have been Susumu in 2014. I think you could point to Ricochet in 2013 as well, and then Genki in 2012. So you had a stretch there where they were going a little off kilter with their King of Gate winners. But for the last decade, it's kind of been the guys that we thought. And as we go into Minoru versus Shimizu, I don't think either of them are shocking. It makes sense that we're approaching this point in the tournament, and these are the guys that are left, minus Yo to some degree. I think it's a huge mistake if Shimizu doesn't win. I think Shimizu challenging for the Dreamgate belt right now in this moment is far more interesting than Minoru, and I like what Minoru is doing, but I don't think there's a wrong result here.
No, I'm totally with you on that. I'm right now looking at that 2012 to 2014 bracket, and interestingly enough, you have Genki Horiguchi, King of Gate 2012. We all know that. We all saw the tank top he wore for 3 years. But it's Akira Tozawa who headlines that year's Kobe World afterwards. Same thing with Ricochet in 2013. He wins, he gets his first Dreamgate shot, and then it's Shingo beating Shima at Kobe World that year. 2014, Susumu got that title shot before Kobe World, right?
Yeah, it was Susumu and Yamato, and it was the Champion Gate in Hokkaido that they used to run.
Oh, that's right.
Which weren't televised. Or not Hokkaido, but Hakata, I think. Well, no, shit, what was it? I gotta look now because it's gonna bug me.
I don't think it would have been Hokkaido, because that would have been really late for when they run Hokkaido.
Yeah, no, it was Champion Gate and Hakata. It was Star Lanes, but these shows didn't air because the year before was the Shima Ricochet match that no one's ever seen.
That's right.
And then this was Yamato versus Susumu. Shima versus Ricochet, still my Dragongate Holy Grail. I would do anything to see that match.
And here's the disparity of your two Open the Voice Gate hosts. Case, you know what mine is, right?
I don't know. I'm looking at Champion Gate Hakata 2014 Night 2, and I see a 3-way match between Stalker Ichikawa, Genki Horiguchi, and Batten Blah Blah, and I'm assuming that's what your top pick is.
Well, One the People is in that match. I'm going all the way back. Tomohiro Ishii worked a lot of Torimon, but never made tape. He had a series of 9 singles matches with Sakura Chikawa that I would die to see. Each one. And I expect it to be on a high 8 fan cam. I want to see those matches. Especially like Ishii at that time with a high top. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see Shima and Ricochet do cool flips, but we all have our thing.
We all have our things, but Case, a joint thing for us is a fandom of a special member of the roster, someone we haven't talked about, even though he was on the Tsushima and Yamaguchi shows. That's UT. We are having a 10th anniversary year for UT. It's a little complicated with UT's actual debut. I don't know when it's actually celebrated. Case, you're the one who this was your topic, but we're going to talk about some special UT matches to close out tonight's show. UT, what draws you to UT?
Well, so his debut is listed as April 14th of 2013 in Mexico in a 3-way match. I consider it to be August 30th of 2013 when Millennials landed back in Japan. So either way, UT gets his hometown, his 10th anniversary show on August 6th in the singles match against KZ. To answer your question about what draws me to UT, the fascinating wrestler. You know, we kind of did an impromptu biography of his career either a week or two ago, but I just couldn't have imagined even 4 or 5 years ago it being UT's 10th anniversary and having it mean anything, having him mean anything, because he was a wrestler that for the longest time, I did not care about. I did not think there would be a future for him there. I thought, basically the career that OG Shiba had in Dragongate, for a while it looked like UT would actually be the predecessor to that. And instead, throughout all of these injuries and unit changes and times where he's been really featured and times where he's been really de-emphasized, he remains a part of the roster. And thanks for the work that he's done in Natural Vibes, I think he's a very valuable member of the roster and one of the many beating hearts of the promotion that continues to keep things chugging along.
Yeah, another reason I like him, like again, like the OG Shiba comp, that I was about to hit unmute and scream OG Shiba right as you were saying that. But the thing that gets me, and a lot of this started happening right as he was joining Tribe Vanguard, was before really anyone was doing it on Turner Broadcasting, he kind of revitalized, at least in my eyes, a style of wrestling that I have a lot of passionate feelings about. And Yave, the submission style of Mexican technical lucha libre, and when he revitalized his career with his good lucha, as his finishing move would be translated into, it's something that it really revitalized and has made him someone that really since 2018, if I'm going to list who I think were the best technical wrestlers in the world over that 5-year period, even if it's a top 10 list, I think he has like a strong midfield appearance there. He's really shown what you can do with a particular style of wrestling and incorporate that into the fabric of a promotion that at one time was very much about Yave, but that was 20 years before, and kind of reviving it in a lot of ways was something that really brought me into him. And then the work in Tri Vanguard and Natural Vibes as well, really capitalizing on both his Nagoya hometown and also like his ability has been really something that has made him probably my favorite in-ring wrestler in Dragongate over the last few years.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do, just because, we obviously had King of Gate to talk about, but I knew we would have some time to talk about some extra stuff this week. So we picked 3 matches on the Dragongate Network, one that I want to talk about, one that Mike wanted to talk about, and one that I knew we both would want to talk about. And if you're a newer fan, or maybe you want to revisit some old stuff, or maybe you haven't seen some old stuff, we picked 3 UT matches that are on the Dragongate Network that you can watch in celebration of his 10th anniversary. And I think we should go chronological here. Neither of us had anything from his Millennials era. Part of that is, that's not the fullest part of the archives on the Dragongate Network, but also, do you have a UT Millennials match that sticks out in your mind? I have one, but it's not on the network, and it's not what I would have picked anyways.
Yeah, the thing with that era is like it doesn't get better for him after the landing. Frankly,
No.
like his position within the unit, his position within the roster, his health, nothing was as good as it was in 2013. And the network doesn't have a whole lot of 2013. He wasn't involved in a whole lot of major frontline millennial stuff after 2013, because that's when you started having Flamita kind of becoming the number 3 in that unit. You had Maria as well, and his health really kind of impacted that. So it kind of is very fitting that we just kind of ended up picking 3 matches within the same 4-month time period. Funny enough.
Well, I will say, and I would love to know, people, open the Voice Gate channel on the Voices of Wrestling Discord, what your sort of go-to UT match is, because I think there's a wide range of answers. I think a lot of people have connected to a lot of different things throughout his career. And especially if you have one that we don't mention or just want to shout one out that we didn't mention, I would really like to hear what that is, just out of morbid curiosity. The one Millennials match that is unfortunately not on the network, but if you can track it down, I would recommend it, because it's 15 minutes of UT getting his, I will say this in the nicest way I can, 15 minutes of UT getting his shit rocked in. October 10th, 2013, 10-10-13, Don Fuji, Masaki Mochizuki, and Super Shisa versus Eita, T-Hawk, and UT. This, for all of the violence that Masaki Mochizuki and Don Fuji have dished out over their almost 30-year careers, this is like a top 5 match. They destroy UT. I mean, T-Hawk and Eita get it bad, but this is sort of a showcase for, hey, UT's the small guy. You know, he's the guy that can get his ass kicked, and boy, do they take advantage of that. The finish of this match, and I will not spoil it, I want people to be able to track it down and be surprised if they haven't seen it. The finish of this match, one of the nastiest things I have ever seen in a wrestling ring, and it's by way of Don Fuji and UT.
I don't remember this match, so you're going to have to run me through this.
Oh my God. Oh, well, it's Mochi Fuji and Shisa versus 3 young guys. You know, it's
right.
It's an ass kicking that never really lets up. But it's, you know, it's that Korakuen show. So this is we're now in, you know, guaranteed sellout era of Dragon Gate. Main event on this show was Yoshino versus Yamato. They did that in Korakuen. It's fucking insane. But
and this would have been either soon after or right around when Yamato turned, right? No.
Yes, yeah. No, he's Matt Blanky at this point. This is where he loses the Dream Gate. So he beat Shingo. He beat Shingo in August. He has the defense against Saito in September, and then has the Yoshino match in October, which they did. I mean, they did 3 Dream Gate matches in a row at Korakuen, and it was Yamato versus Shingo, Yamato versus Saito, which that match kicks ass, despite my feelings on Ryo Saito. And then Yamato versus Yoshino. These are just loaded shows. So the atmosphere is crazy. It's stuffed to the gills. I mean, it is so clearly 1850 in that building. And then you have this, you know, this 6-man tag. And at this point, the Millennials are established, at least the main 3. I think this might have been, this predates Rocky Lobo and Flamita and even Maria, because Maria doesn't debut as that character until November. So it's just these 3, and it's a war. I mean, I'll track this down and send it to you, Mike, and anybody that wants to shoot me a DM, I can try to get them a copy of this. But it's a war. It's one that I've talked about with people throughout the years, and for the people that have seen it, it seems to leave a memory of like, God, that was really violent, wasn't it? It's like, yeah, no, that was messed up. What they did to UT was quite disgusting.
I need to watch this, so I'm glad you're going to seek that out. So let's go with the first match chronologically. This was your selection. This is from another auspicious day in Dragon Gate history, December 4th, 2018, the day that Pac won the Dream Gate from Masato Yoshino. It was UT versus Shun.
Yes. So this is a really important match with 5 years of hindsight within the context of the Dragon system, because this is a match where Shun is still Mochizuki Dojo, UT is Tribe Vanguard, and there's all of these young guys sort of swarming around the mid card, ready to be elevated, ready to take the next step. But there's almost like a jam at the top. They don't know how to funnel these guys through. So this match, which, like I said, we'll have the link in the description of this episode. It's also on the Dragongate Network in the Infinity section 2018. This match leads to the rookie ranking tournament, which obviously leads to Shun winning, him pinning Benkei, him losing to Pac, and then, from there, he has a big summer, then he's off to Mexico, and then by the time he comes back, he's a Dreamgate champion. But this is UT and Shun trying to see who the better of the young guys is. Shun was really looking to elevate himself in storyline from Mochizuki Dojo, and UT was looking to prove that he belonged not only in Tri Vanguard, but just still on the roster. By this point, he had been there for 5 years, but Shun and Yoshioka and even Minoru, who had only been there for a few months, they were at risk of passing UT by. And so they have this match, and I will spoil the finish here. Skip ahead 15 seconds if you don't want to hear it, but it goes to a 20-minute time limit draw, and that results in post-match chaos where they set up the rookie ranking tournament after the fact. But it was, I don't know. Can you go back 5 years and kind of remember where you were at with UT? Because for me at this time, this was when it sunk in that he was someone that I could get invested in, that he was going to be around, that he had talent, and that he was somebody that I actually had to care about, and not just one of these dark match, opening match sort of wrestlers.
Yeah, this was around the time where UT really kind of took that step. And I don't remember exactly if this was right as he did his Yave reinvention, or
it's close. Right, there's even, like, it's fun watching Shun in this match because Shun even does some Yave. I think people forget he's really bulked up, and he obviously wears the bodysuit now, and the way that he presents himself, he comes across bigger than he is. But Shun is lanky and fast and
reckless,
wrestling like a Brave Gate guy and not a Dream Gate guy in this match, and that's pretty cool to watch in hindsight.
Yeah, like it starting off the match with his because he would do this all the time, is just how far away we are from it. Start off with that reckless tope that he always did, or plancha suicida, he always did to start those matches. And after that, I just, it was something with this match that not only brought me back to UT doing this reinvention that was blowing my mind, but Shun Skywalker in the fall 2018 already had things put together that I know we've talked about how Mochizuki Jr. and Ishin, that became a little bit of a local draw, at least for the Tokyo market, and that became one of the big things that people would come to see. I felt like at this time, maybe we didn't know it at the time because we weren't talking to the right people, but it felt like that Skywalker kind of became one of those guys in that way, and I thought it was really fascinating and really fun the way that UT used the size difference, but used it in a way to his advantage, and to a point where the Cobra Twist spot in this, holy crap, I forgot how big the Cobra Twist spot was in this match.
Yeah, completely. Again, this is where you really start to see UT transform from a guy that was cannon fodder, was there to get beat, into a guy that was not only, earning respect, but you really see him transforming into the wrestler that he is now, almost through the course of this match. And again, it's very submission heavy. Shun is on top for a lot of this match, very dominant, and UT fights to stay alive, and he does it in a pretty engaging way. And this is one of those matches where, again, it was just a turning point for me and what UT brought to the table, and one that was really fun, given everything, the way Dragongate looks right now. Watching a 5-year-old Shun versus UT match, very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, you can also see both Kamei and Kakuta on ring boy duties at the time, especially after the insane tope from Shun that absolutely shatters a chair with it.
I'm glad you said that, because that was my big takeaway too, was you can see Kamei during the entrance, you can see Kakuta on the floor, and it's so funny that Kakuta has the straight young boy buzz cut, and Kamei has the Justin Bieber hair. I've never seen a Dragongate young boy with that much hair before.
Yeah, no, he has basically the exact same haircut he has now.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, one of the things that I really love about UT that was in play here in this match was in the closing stretch. There was a knee salt like right out of the Bienjave and then working the Bienjave into these places that really was such a kind of cool experience to remind yourself of.
Yeah, no, it's a nice walk down memory lane. Just again, like I said, these guys, UT is roughly the same, but this is a cool sort of experimentation match for this. But UT versus Shun now would just look so drastically different. It's really worth going back and checking this out.
I don't know if UT can survive a match with Shun nowadays.
I'd like to see it. That's a King of Gate match that would just be nice to be able to see at some point.
Right, yeah, like 2024 first round, you have them at Cork and it goes 6 minutes. UT gets destroyed.
Something like that.
Yep. My match is the next match chronologically. This was only 3 months later at Champion Gate. Why was it hard for me to say that? Champion Gate, night 2 in Osaka, March 3rd, 2019. This is listed as an Infinity episode, but we'll have the list in the show notes, but it's from Champion Gate. The RED Twin Gate champion team of Benkei and Big Boss Shimizu versus the Tribe Vanguard team of UT and Kai. And this is a match I always go back to, Case, and it is just so fun. It's just the way that this match goes out of control.
Yeah, I have always been an advocate of saying UT and Kai, whether they're teaming or wrestling one another, those guys just fit together. And in the same way that UT versus Shun was one of the first times that it really seemed like UT had found his place in Dragon Gate, this was this was the first great Kai match. He came in August of 2018, and I loathed him for a little bit, but he comes in here and is perfect. And he and UT is a team that it seems... I don't know. I guess there's an argument to be made that they're both past that now, but with the right gimmick change, if they wind up in the same unit again, I would be throwing Kai and UT back together in a tag team so quickly.
Yeah, there's just an easy, natural chemistry there that they don't even really have to play up the idea they have a small guy with a heavyweight with it. But it's something that with this match and the thing on rewatching, I probably haven't watched this match in 4 years, probably since March of 2019, but it was always a match I held really fondly, and a lot of that was just the way that UT worked as a dogged babyface in peril throughout this match, and into the closing stretch where he just eats some of the most brutal tag team finishers that Dragon Gate has had in a long time.
Yeah, the pop-up spear, that oddly enough was gift by our... the very brave journalist that is Dark Purist Flosion, the incredible reporting that he does, very accurate, very trusted. I'm not suspicious of it at all. But yeah, this is, you put UT in the ring with Big Ben, you want to see him get clobbered, you want to see him get destroyed, and that's exactly what happened here. And it's, it's a top level Twin Gate match. It's not that tier 1, with Kamei and Jason versus Shun and Diamante and Shima and Ricochet versus Pac and Dragon Kid, or the Amigos tag versus the Jimmys match. But when you start going down the list, this is one of the better Twin Gate matches I think that's occurred.
Yeah, it's one of the ones where I feel like that there was like an awareness that like these 4 guys knew like, okay, this is the kind of match that if you have a super heavyweight team like Big Ben and you have someone like UT with his size, you take advantage of it. And it's something with that my big non-UT takeaway was maybe we should have saw it coming with Benkei in 2019.
In terms of
charisma, personality.
Yeah. Look, there. He's a weird guy that at times he's been strangely charismatic. From the jump, he was a rookie that jumped off the screen, and then it seemed like that was almost vacuumed away. But there are times where you go, oh no, this guy's a performer. He's certainly not traditional in a lot of respects, but he is undoubtedly a performer.
Yeah, it just was something putting myself back into March of 2019 going like, oh, he is about to go on like one of like the big one of the most like dominant and powerful springs into summers in Dragon System history, and will be completely washed out by December. And
yeah, this is one of the last heel Ben matches because he turns in May.
Yeah, no, this was his last big heel match, actually, if you really think about it, because he turns in the cage.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, but it's a good one, and again, just a shining example of what UT is capable of.
And nothing showed what he was capable of than probably our most talked about small show match of the last 5 years. It's a Prime Zone upload from 2019, April 16th. So only basically 42 days after, 43 days after Champion Gate. You had UT versus Super Shisa in a different kind of match in front of maybe 100 people in Kobe Lapis Hall.
Yeah, a match that, thanks to our Kobe correspondent, Super Shisa is now very aware of how much we love this match, and rewatching it today, I didn't think it was possible. It's actually better than I remember.
You find something new each time you watch this match.
It's so smooth. I mean, I've been painted unfairly, over the years by my critics, my haters, my doubters, my naysayers, as somebody that doesn't enjoy the finer side of wrestling, the grappling side of wrestling. Not true. I don't like Timothy Thatcher. Not very good at what he does. If Evolve had looked like this in its peak era, I would have gotten an Evolve tattoo. I would have had the face of Gabe Sapolsky tattooed on my body. This is wrestling. I mean, this is next level stuff. And it's special because it's something that really hasn't been duplicated. Now, part of that is just the distribution of this match. And the main reason I want you to have the links in the description is I wouldn't wish finding a Prime Zone episode on the network upon my worst enemy. I'm glad we were both able to find it. But I remember, I think Gran Akuma's the one that said this, because he said it publicly, where he was just like, it's not that, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's basically like, it's not that wrestlers don't like Yave style. It's just, it's so hard to do. Like, learning it is not easy because you either have to learn it from Skida or you're learning a bastardized version of it. And even if you learn it from the very best, it's just not something that most guys can actually do.
Yeah, and to have a match that's almost 20 minutes long that is purely Yave based. There's only like 5 strikes in the entire match. There's only like one like wrestling move outside of a hold being traded, and it's a sudden pile driver that Shisa does when he gets frustrated.
Yeah.
What was like your new moment in this match, in this watch for you this time? Mine was I forgot that UT gets his nose busted open very briefly and comically wipes his bloody nose on Shisa's wrist tape, and the crowd cracks up.
Yeah, I like that, but for me, again, it was just how smooth everything was. I knew the match was great. I knew I loved it, but watching it again, I mean, this match is 4 years old now, and there's nothing that's come close. I mean, Dragongate did. So UT got hurt pretty shortly after this. And then his return match was Ultimo versus UT, which was bizarre. And I think we were both selfishly hoping that Ultimo versus UT would look a lot like Shisa versus UT. And it was good, but it wasn't by any means what this was. So seeing this here, Shisa being one of my favorite wrestlers of all time and UT being a guy that I've really come to respect, just seeing how good they are at this style that no one is good at. It was really nice to see. If you've never seen this match before, I mean, it's Mike and I are higher on this than most people, but if, okay, let's hypothetically, we're making a DVD for the best, this is hypothetical, we're making a DVD for the best 25 matches in Dragongate history for the Dragongate 25th anniversary. This is match 25. I mean, this is so obviously on the list if Mike and I are curating it, because it just holds a really special place in our hearts. If you've never seen it, go out of your way to watch it.
I think I have another way to pitch this match to people who might just listen to this show. They don't dip into Dragongate that often, but they like listening to us, but they do appreciate some things like this. You'll never see headlocks and arm ringers and arm breakers applied in creative manners and out of moves you would not think you would be able to apply a headlock. But for 20 minutes, they basically try to find ways in and out of headlocks, wrist locks. There's a huge spot about a Roman knuckle lock, of all things. It's so different. It's so unique. It is just, it's the match that I identify with UT. And on his 10th anniversary, it was time to revisit this.
Yeah, no, completely. It's a very special match, and I've got a very busy week ahead of me with the Dragongate shows and everything else I got going on in my life. But watching this, it really made me want to sit down and rewatch the best of Super Shisa and just bask in his glory. What a special wrestler he was.
Someone should steal his standing STF. He does.
Somebody should just wrestle like him. That's the plan. Listen
just
to
live
this.
his life.
Just do what he did. Wrestling would be better if you just copied him.
Yeah, you just go to Mexico. You end up in Torreon, but you don't go there yourself. You end up just grinding it out there. You have an intermittent taco truck, and you go out there and have perhaps the best Yave match to ever happen outside of Mexico.
He's the guy. No one cares about my tweets, nor should they. It's I get it, a bunch of nonsense on there, and it's really just a bunch of like Dragongate and kind of like indie lucha stuff. But whenever I post a Shisa GIF, that it blows up. It gets people, whether it's Saito, all caps Saito, or Shisa. It's people going, wait, who's this guy? What is this? I've never seen this before. And his career, I think, could have gone a lot of different ways. We probably got the worst version of it. But God, I'm so glad we got this match, and I'm selfishly very glad that he's aware that we touted it the way that we did.
Yeah, now we just got to get UT's thoughts on this match, and we can actually have an oral history of a match that we are the two people outside of Japan who care about the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can make it happen.
We absolutely could.
Well, let's preview this Korakuen card real quick and get out of here. We already talked about the King of Gate stuff. It is opening with Kakuta versus Shimizu for one semifinal, then Kota Minoura versus Hio for the second one. The winners will face off in match 7 for the championship, Dragongate's #1 championship, King of Gate 2023. Elsewhere on Korakuen, we have a 6-man tag: Susumu Mochizuki, Azushi Kanda Mochizuki Jr., M3K versus Z-Brass, Shun, Kai, and Ishin. 8-man tag: Dragon Kid, Punch Tominaga, Yoshiki Kato, and Daiki Yanagiuchi versus Benkei, Naruki Doi, BB Hulk, and Minorita. We're having a gold class reunion on match 4. Match 5, Mochi Fuji returns as Masaki Mochizuki teams with Don Fuji versus Shuji Kondo and Takashi Yoshida. That's probably the biggest match physically one can have in a Dragon Gate ring. Maybe sub out Mochizuki for Kakuta. And then the semi-main event is Natural Vibes versus D-Courage Unaffiliated, as it's KZ, Strong Machine J making his return, UT, Jason Lee, and Jackie Funky Kamei versus this really just, you got Yuki Yoshioka, you got Dragon Dia, so you got some D-Courage in it, but you also have Yamato and Kagatora, so you have some X high-end in it, and Eita to fill out that 10-man squad. That's Korakuen coming on Thursday, Case. This card pretty scattered outside of King of Gate. Yeah,
I don't love it. I'm into vibes versus everybody else, sort of vibes versus the world here. That's intriguing. Just it's Eita in a back half Korakuen match, so people are going to be throwing their braziers at him. It's going to be like the fucking Beatles showed up, and he'll do a walk and brawl with KZ, and then clap his hands and go back to Noah. It's going to be very frustrating, but I think that match looks interesting. But I don't know. Z-Brats versus M3K could be cool. There has not been a lot of Junior versus Skywalker interaction, and I am looking forward to that. The gold class match does nothing for me. The Mochi Fuji match kind of depends on how much Yoshida we get versus how much Kondo we get. But this is a show that'll be sold entirely on the idea of King of Gate and whether or not people are invested in Shimizu or Minoura. So the number will be very interesting. Dragon Gate lives in sort of the 950 to 1200 range. Anything 1200 or above is a massive win. anything in that range they normally fall in, and I think everybody's okay with that. If it dips below 950, I'd tug the collar a little bit. I'd be a little bit concerned, but I don't see that being the case here.
Yeah, I largely co-sign that M3K versus Z-Brats match, just for having Junior versus Ishin in on it, provides a little bit of meat on the bone there. This 10-man tag, this is really like Mega Powers collide or merch sellers collide with that, and Kakatorkits come along as well.
Yeah, God, the merch sales on that match, they're going to have a good night.
Did you think that they book Ada after intermission so they could hope they can maybe get him to sign things during intermission?
That is a phenomenal theory. I certainly can't rule it out. It's certainly a possibility.
When I look at this guy, we've talked more than enough about him. No need to relegate that as we're closing up here. When you see the guy with the presence he's had since he's gone freelance, semi-main eventing, that's the conclusion, because I don't expect anything else out of it. Is, hey, Eita, you want to bring some of your new Hao Ming shirts and sign them for people here? Okay, sweet. You're going on second from the top.
Yep, and next week you'll be wrestling Leona. Have fun.
Yep, have that. But that's going to do it for us this week on Open the Voice Gate. We'll be back with you on Tuesday talking about this Cork. And there's another show happening this weekend as well for Dragongate. I did not have that page up on my run sheet, but
good. It's the Aichi show, right?
Yeah, it's Aichi. It's Aichi on 6. It's the 10th anniversary show. So there will be and oh
my God, there's 3 shows this weekend. Fuck, I'm busy. What are we doing here? It's the Strong Machine J Kai Homecoming show in Kanagawa on the 4th. It is the Hiroshima show on the 5th, and the UT Homecoming show in Nagoya Aichi on the 6th. We will not only break down King of Gate next week, obviously, but no other podcast, I can say this confidently, no other podcast covers Aichi region attendance the way we do, and I am fascinated to see what the number they do on Sunday is. So expect attendance talk for big picture Japan stuff next week as well.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their travel week, and at least you're staying in the metro area with that Yokohama show, but then you're going to Hiroshima, Nagoya, and then you get 5 days off. That's not a that's not a fun 3-day period, I would say.
No, that's I did not realize they had all of those shows this week. That'll be interesting.
At least Nagoya is somewhat close to that, and then next week they are in Kunamoto for Genki Horiguchi's 25th anniversary shows. So it's an interesting August coming up for Dragongate, and of course, Dangerous Gate on the 20th. They announced Gate of Origin and Gate of Destiny dates today as well. But that's, unless you have anything else, Case, I think that's going to do it.
I think that's it.
Yep, that will do it this week on Open the Voice Gate. Thanks for everyone for listening. If you would like to follow Open the Voice Gate, we're just going to say Twitter. We did the X thing up top on Twitter. It's at Open Voice Gate. If you want to also find out more about the show, go to the Voices of Wrestling Discord. Case and I, we post up both in the show specific Open the Voice Gate channel and the Dragongate channel, and we hang out there. It's the best place on Discord, I would say, over there. But you could also follow us on Twitter. Case is at _Case. I'm at Fujiheya. Thanks for listening to Open the Voice Gate. We'll be back with you next week talking about who wins 2023 King of Gate. Take care, everyone.
Hello, do you like New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are you a Shin Nihon freak? If so, check out the Super J-Cast with Joel and Damon on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
And even if you fucking hate New Japan Pro Wrestling, listen to the Super J-Cast anyway. Not just for our great show reviews, analysis, and pastrami sandwiches, but there's also usually some dick jokes somewhere in the obligatory opening 30 minutes of absolute nonsense we chat about every single week. That's the Super J-Cast for all the best talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, crisps, and pornography.
Cheering at pro wrestling shows in Japan is back, and 2023 is already shaping up to be a big year in the history of pro res. That's why you should listen to the Emerald Flow Show. From the Royal Road to the Green Mat, Paul and Gerard take you into the world of All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah. Not only do we analyze events, but we examine business, who is getting over, what angles are working or not. Occasionally, we take a look at other Japanese promotions like DDT and 01. So if you're looking for more coverage of the world of Japanese wrestling, check out the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, available on all of your favorite podcast apps.